On August 15th, 1704, two 7-year-old girls vanished from the village of Ashford Green in Somerset. No bodies were ever found. No witnesses came forward. No trace of them was ever discovered. The only clue to their disappearance was a mirror and the 37 people who had died exactly as the twins had predicted. This is the story of Catherine and Margaret Whitmore, the mirror twins, who looked into cursed glass and saw the future. And then, one morning, they simply ceased to exist. The Whitmore family lived in a modest stone cottage on the edge of the village, where their father, Thomas, worked as a wheelwright. Their mother, Anne, was known throughout Ashford Green for her skill with herbal remedies. The twins were identical in every way. The same pale blonde hair that fell in waves to their shoulders, the same grey-green eyes, the same slight frame. They shared something deeper than appearance. They would speak in unison without planning to. They would reach for the same object at the same moment. When one fell ill, the other would develop symptoms within hours. The mirror came to their home on January 14th, 1704. It was a gift from Anne's brother, a merchant who had acquired it from a French nobleman fleeing debts. The mirror was remarkable for its time, nearly 3 feet tall, framed in dark walnut wood, carved with intricate patterns of vines and strange flowers. The glass itself was clearer than any the Whitmores had ever seen. Most mirrors of the era were small, cloudy things. This one showed every detail with unsettling clarity. 3 days after it arrived, on a grey afternoon when snow fell outside the cottage windows, Catherine and Margaret stood before the mirror while their mother prepared supper. They had been playing with corn-husk dolls, but their eyes kept drifting to the glass. They whispered to each other about how their reflections moved strangely, how they seemed delayed, out of sync. They stepped closer, their faces now inches from the glass, and that's when everything changed. The surface of the mirror rippled like water. The reflection of the cottage room dissolved, replaced by visions so clear they seemed more real than reality itself. They saw their mother standing in the village square, older, her face lined with grief, her hair gone completely grey. She was dressed in black mourning clothes. She was screaming. The vision changed. Their father lying on the ground in his workshop. A wheel had fallen on him. Blood pooled beneath his head. His eyes were open but seeing nothing. Another ripple. Old William the shepherd hanging from a rope in his barn. The butcher's wife drowning in the river. The blacksmith's son lying in bed, covered in plague sores. Vision after vision flooded through the mirror. Deaths, tragedies, sorrows yet to come. The twins saw them all, unable to look away, unable to close their eyes. The mirror held them transfixed, pouring futures into their minds like poison. When it stopped, Catherine and Margaret stumbled backward, gasping, tears streaming down their faces. Their mother found them huddled together on the floor, shaking and pale. When Anne asked what had frightened them, the twins looked at each other with that silent communication they shared. Then Catherine spoke, her voice hollow and distant. She told her mother to prepare black clothes. Very soon, Margaret added that their father was going to die. The wheel, it would break. 3 days from now, Anne slapped her daughter. Not hard, but sharp enough to shock. The twins were never to speak such things. But the damage was done. The mirror had opened something inside them, and it could not be closed. The next morning, Catherine approached John Harding, the baker, as he delivered bread. She told him not to go to Bristol the following week. The bridge would collapse. He would drown in the river with his horse and cart. His wife would find his body 3 days later, caught in the reeds downstream. Her voice was flat, strange, devoid of the warmth a 7-year-old should possess. John Harding stared at the girl with growing horror. "What kind of devil's talk was that?" he demanded. Catherine simply tilted her head. She was just telling him what she saw. Word spread through the village like wildfire. The Whitmore twins were seeing terrible things, predicting deaths. Some dismissed it as childish mischief. Others crossed themselves and avoided the cottage. On the 3rd day, Thomas Whitmore was repairing a cartwheel when the support beam cracked. The wheel fell, struck him in the head, and killed him instantly. Exactly as the twins had seen, the village was paralyzed with fear. Anne Whitmore, now dressed in black as her daughters had predicted, tried to understand what had happened. The twins told her about old William, about Mary the butcher's wife, about young Peter the blacksmith's son, all the deaths they had seen. When Anne demanded to know how they knew these things, Margaret said simply that the mirror had shown them. They couldn't stop seeing it, even when they closed their eyes. Catherine added that every person who passed by, they saw how they would die. They saw when. They saw everything. Father Benedict came to their cottage and questioned the girls. What he heard made him recoil. The twins described his own death, how he would choke on meat at the Christmas feast, how he would claw at his throat while the congregation watched, how he would die on the floor of his own church. The priest declared that these children were touched by evil. They must be kept away from good Christian folk. But it was too late. John Harding had planned to go to Bristol. He remembered Catherine's warning about the bridge and cancelled his trip. 3 days after he should have made the journey, word came that the old stone bridge had collapsed. A merchant and his cart had plunged into the river. The man's body was found 3 days later, caught in the reeds downstream, just as Catherine had described. The village erupted in chaos. People were terrified to go near the Whitmore cottage. Mothers pulled their children inside when the twins appeared. Men made signs against evil when the girls passed, because everyone knew. If you crossed paths with Catherine and Margaret Whitmore, they would know how you would die, and they would tell you. Old William avoided them for weeks, but one day he met them on the church path. Margaret looked at him and spoke. She told him not to do it. She knew he was sad about his son dying in the war, but hanging himself wouldn't bring him back. His wife would find him in the barn. William staggered away, his face white. 2 weeks later, his wife found him hanging, exactly as Margaret had said. Mary, the butcher's wife, tried to avoid them, but they appeared at her door one morning. They told her they were sorry about her husband and the widow Jacobs. They knew she would find out soon, and they knew about the river. Her skirts would tangle. 3 days after she discovered the truth, Mary slammed the door in their faces. A week later, she discovered her husband's affair. 3 days after that, she walked into the river and drowned, exactly as predicted. The village lived in terror. People barricaded themselves when the twins walked through town. Farmers abandoned their fields if they saw the girls approaching. Shopkeepers closed their doors when Anne came to buy supplies. The villagers demanded the twins be locked away. They were cursed. They were bringing death. Anne protested that they weren't bringing death, only seeing what was going to happen. Then they must be witches, the villagers cried. By spring, the Whitmore cottage had become a place of absolute isolation. No one visited. No one spoke to them. And every person the twins encountered received the same terrible gift: knowledge of their own death. Young Thomas Fletcher, 16, was told he would die in a fire in August. He became obsessed with prevention, checking candles constantly. But in August, lightning struck his barn during a storm. Thomas died inside, checking one final time for candles. Elizabeth Morris, pregnant, was told she would die in childbirth. In June, she gave birth to a healthy daughter and then bled to death, exactly as predicted. By summer, 37 people had died, each death occurring exactly as the twins had foreseen. Some were natural: illness, age, accidents. Others were suicides by people who could not bear living with knowledge of their fate. And some were murders, desperate attempts to change destiny that only fulfilled the predictions. The twins themselves changed. They spoke less and less. They seemed to drift like ghosts, their eyes always distant, always seeing. They held hands constantly. They ate little. They slept poorly. Their mother found charcoal drawings hidden under their bed, stick figures dying in various ways. She burned them, weeping. On the morning of August 15th, 1704, Anne Whitmore woke to silence, the kind of silence that feels wrong. She went to her daughter's room. Their bed was empty, still made from the day before. Their shoes were gone, their shawls were missing. But there was no sign of struggle, no indication of how they had left or when. Anne searched everywhere, then ran screaming through the village. No one had seen them. No one had heard them leave. The door had been barred from the inside. Anne had checked it herself before bed. The windows were too small for the girls to fit through. Yet somehow, impossibly, they were gone. The village organized a search. They searched the woods, the fields, the riverbanks. They questioned travelers. They sent word to neighboring villages. Nothing. Catherine and Margaret Whitmore had simply ceased to exist. Weeks passed, then months. No trace of the twins ever surfaced. The mirror remained in the cottage, covered with a black cloth, and never removed. She lived alone for another 30 years, waiting for her daughters to return. On her deathbed, she was still asking about them. Father Benedict died exactly as the twins had predicted, choking on meat at the Christmas feast of 1706. His replacement found Benedict's notes, detailing every prediction. Of 43 predictions recorded, every single one that could be verified had come true. The disappearance of Catherine and Margaret Whitmore became local legend, then folklore, then myth. People told different stories. Some said devils had taken them. Others believed angels had spirited them away. A few whispered that the mirror itself had consumed them. But no one knew the truth. No one ever would. A traveling magistrate investigated in 1711. His final report, preserved in Somerset archives, concluded that no earthly explanation could account for their vanishing, nor for the accuracy of their predictions. The case remained unsolved and unsolvable. The cottage eventually fell to ruin. The mirror disappeared. The village dwindled over the centuries. Today, Ashford Green is nothing more than scattered farms and a small stone church. But the story persists. Every historian, every researcher who investigates comes to the same conclusion. No one knows what happened to them. Were they murdered? There was no evidence. Did they run away? 7-year-old children couldn't have gotten far. Did they drown? The river was searched. Did they die in the woods? Every tree, every hollow, every cave was explored. They simply vanished. In 2003, archaeologists excavated the cottage site. They found the foundation, some pottery, a few coins. and beneath what would have been the main room, they found fragments of a mirror frame. On one piece of walnut wood, they found something that made them stop immediately. 2 sets of small handprints burned into the wood as if by intense heat. The prints of 7-year-old girls. The burn marks were dated to approximately 1704. The archaeologists sealed the site and left. Their report listed the findings, but made no attempt to explain the handprints. In Father Benedict's notes, there is one final entry, a prediction the twins made in their last week. The entry records that the twins said they had finally seen themselves in the mirror, and now they knew where they had to go. Their mother wouldn't understand. No one would, but the mirror had shown them where they belonged. Where they belonged, where they went, what they saw, no one knows. The mirror twins of 1704 remain one of history's most chilling unsolved disappearances. 2 7-year-old girls who could see the future simply ceased to exist one August morning, leaving behind fulfilled prophecies and a terrible question. If they could see everyone else's fate, what did they finally see when they looked at their own? And wherever they are now, if they are anywhere at all, are they still seeing, still knowing, still watching the future unfold? We don't know, we can't know, and perhaps that's the most terrifying part of all.